What's going on YouTube? You guys like watching this video. I know a lot of my clients watch these videos. I know some of my friends watch these. And all you guys that show love and support, it means the world, but I think there's like a lot of misconceptions around starting a business, and people just like assume it's one of these things where, you start the business, you get financial freedom, you get time freedom, and everything's great. But like, there's really a lot that goes into the inside of like actually staying strong when times get tough. Because like, truth be told, like, business in general, entrepreneurship, it's just lonely, and it's hard because if you don't have people around you that have a similar path, you don't really fit in with a lot of people in your shoes. And I think whoever's watching this video, I just want you to know that like, you ultimately have to make decisions based on what you want to do with your life. And you have to understand that with that comes, you know, maybe some discomfort and maybe some loneliness at times. But that doesn't mean like you should give up. Like, I've had quite a few times since starting this business full time that I thought about, like, I should just go back to working a job, because it gets boring at times, like doing the repetitive things over and over. And working by myself, running my own business, leading other people, right? Like, it's great and dandy, but there are times where I think, you know, it would be cool to just have a job where I clock in and I clock out, and I don't have to take on the burden and all the stress and all the risk of starting this business. And then I remind myself, like, why did I start this business in the first place? Like, was it for me or was it truly for other people? And I realized like it wasn't for me. Like, of course, I wanted the freedom that came with it, but a lot of it as well was getting not just myself, but my family into a better position, and being able to help men get into better shape, not just like with building muscle, but gaining more confidence, believing in themselves, finding God and like faith, right? And so oftentimes, like when it gets difficult, I remind myself of like why I started in the first place, and like how there are people that are looking up to me and people like asking me questions on a daily basis and pushing me to keep going. And that makes me realize, like, okay, I'm not just doing this for myself. I'm doing it for those people. And I'm also doing it for my future son, and I'm doing it for my future family, and I'm doing it for the old me. Like, I grew up, a scrawny 130, 140 pound high school kid, and I didn't have a lot of confidence. I struggled with like fitting in, and the one outlet I found was fitness because it gave me just a way to kind of get my emotions out there, right? And so, um, I think it's helpful knowing that, like, when you start this journey of entrepreneurship, like, it is going to be lonely at times, but that doesn't mean it's not worth it, because it's better to be lonely but working towards a vision that maybe only you see than to be surrounded by people and doing things that you maybe don't fit in with, right? I remember like jobs I worked in the past, just like, I don't think back on the past too much, but like I had a couple thoughts earlier. Like, I worked a job in finance in the past, and I remember thinking like, I want to do this fitness thing. And this girl I was dating at the time, her mom pretty much was like, hey, you can always go back to that job. You can always go back and whatnot, but you can't get the time back, and you will miss out on an opportunity if you don't try, right? And I remember hearing that and thinking like, you know what, like, that's so true. And like, shortly after I left that job, and I remember like as I was leaving, my manager at the time was like, oh, we have a big opportunity here for career growth, and you can be here long term, and make something of your life. And I just remember thinking like, driving home, after basically putting my 2 week notice in, and thinking to myself like, I wouldn't want that for myself because like I would just be miserable, like doing something that I'm not passionate about, and knowing that I have this stone that I haven't turned over that I know I can definitely move, right? And when I left that position, I went to work as an in-person trainer, and I should have started that job, working as a trainer somewhere like years sooner. Um, and I always wanted to get into fitness and make it my main focus of work. But I don't know, something about it was just like the risk of like people around me saying like it's probably not a good idea, you probably can't be successful doing these things. And I kind of just burned the boats and I went in on my own dreams, but I also listened to the inputs of people that like supported me that maybe weren't like actual family. Like I said, like that girl's mom, um, other people that I had connected with, be it in college or even just like in the online space that like I also saw I had a clear vision and that motivated me to keep going. And flash forward a couple of years after getting a lot of like skills, a lot of knowledge, making a lot of connections at that in-person training job, I realized that I also wasn't super happy there either because it was just another job. It was just in the realm of what I enjoyed doing, right? And the reason I'm making this video is I just want to talk about like why it's so important to go in on your passions and follow the pursuit of your dreams because people aren't gonna most likely agree with what you're doing or support you. And just because they're not supporting you, like that doesn't mean you shouldn't go after these things because at the end of the day, like we're gonna leave this life by ourselves, like stripped, like it says in the Bible, like we come into this world with nothing and we leave with nothing. And so like when you actually sit with that thought, the way I think about it is, like if I'm gonna be leaving this world one day with nothing, I might as well make use of the time I have here on this earth, right? And like I'm a little bit tired, Um, I've been just staying up late and waking up early and had a bunch of nights where I didn't sleep. And I know my fitness coach, it's not the best, right? But you just have to make sacrifices. And so that's why I'm saying that is if I'm kind of coming off as like losing my train of thought, um, I'm kind of out of it. But I just figured I would like jump on because I was kind of just like laying down thinking to myself, like, um, I was just thinking these thoughts and I was like, let me just like record and just document. Um, because like the amount of progress you can make when you actually push yourself to the limit, which truly like there is no limit, but when you push yourself close to what you think the limit is, that's when the most growth occurs, right? And like flash forward to where I'm at now, everything as stressful as it is, like is always worth it because I'm living the vision that I wanted as a kid. Like growing up, like I said, I always wanted to do something with fitness and I didn't quite know if it was possible. And I also didn't have the self-belief to be able to go after it. But getting into fitness, it changed my vision on things because I started to realize that, like the hard work you put in is the reward. The result is not the reward. And like it's funny, every time that I would be in the gym working out, that was always the fulfilling part. The fulfilling part was never putting on the muscle, although that was great and it was like a hey, like what I'm doing is working. It was the fulfilling feeling of pushing myself to the limit and trying to exceed where I was currently at, right, and get better. And that's what I think gave me the confidence to start this business because when I left the previous job and went to the personal training in person, and then I left that job to start the business, like I didn't have a lot of people that supported me. And the people I did have that were telling me, like, go for all these things, as soon as I started the business, like they just went on with their own life and nothing against it. Not that I don't talk with them anymore, but I didn't have like these people reaching out asking me, like, hey, how's the business going? Like, how's everything going? And like, what can I do to support? And it was just like a reality check of like, wow, like I really have to figure this out on my own. I have to lean on to my own discomfort. I have to lean, onto my own strength. And of course, like I lean on to strength in God, right? But um, I started just to realize after a couple months, like, because I would like text friends and I would like FaceTime other people that were starting businesses or other people that were thinking about starting a business, and I would just talk about ideas. And it would just be like, yo, it would be so cool if we started this business. And then like once I actually started the business, I just realized that like the people I talked with, like they weren't really like actually about taking the necessary steps. And it was always just like, oh man, like, yeah, I'm thinking about doing this thing, but like they weren't actually like doing anything. And I just started to realize like, like it's not really helping me like asking these people for advice. It's not really helping me like trying to find the answers from external people. Like I need to find those answers from within. I need to find the truth from myself and like what I want to truly accomplish with my life, right? And um it's definitely like an emotional roller coaster when you are starting a business because nothing's guaranteed. And like a famous quote by Hormozy that I like is like starting a business is like running a marathon and not knowing how much longer you have until the finish line, and also not knowing if there is a finish line at all, and being out of shape and trying to get into shape while running the marathon. And it's so true. It's like with a business, like none of this stuff is guaranteed. Like it's not guaranteed to pay off. It's not guaranteed to work. It's not guaranteed that you'll be successful. It's not guaranteed that um, it will be the best move for you. But what is guaranteed is if you don't try and if you don't actually attempt, you're never going to know. And that is probably the most frustrating thing. And one thing I continue to just remind myself over and over and over is like, I don't want to look back on the buildup of this business when I'm 40, 50, 60 years old and say like I was miserable building the whole thing. And as easy as it is to say that, it's a lot harder, to it's easier said than done, right? To um, be in that uplifted spirit all the time. I think about that oftentimes, like I'm in the process of doing the things that I love and helping the people and building the things and going through the hardships, and truly like the path, the route, the highway, if you will, is like really what's the fulfilling feeling. Because like waking up every single day and learning about the skills necessary, um, providing for my clients, helping them make changes with their own life, and trying to bring them to become the best version of themselves. That's what's the fulfilling feeling, right? And my birthday's in a couple days, and I just started to like kind of reflect like the past 24 hours or so as like how my previous year has been. And I realized like, I I don't regret anything. Um there's definitely things I wish I did differently, but going into this new year of life, I feel like I've pushed myself quite a lot to what I thought was capable of, and I know there's so much more to get to in my life, but it just made me start to like really realize like what is possible when you put yourself in uncomfortable decisions. And not a lot of people have the opportunity to do these sorts of things. Like I had a buddy of mine from college that like passed away, and he never got to live out like any of this stuff, right? Like he never got to live out his dreams. I don't even know like really what his dream was, but I just know in college him talking about like, oh, like one day I want to do X, Y, and Z, and like he didn't have the opportunity to do so, unfortunately. And like one of the last things, or actually the last thing he said to me was like, um, he was like, you never know. He was like, keep doing your fitness thing. This is what the people want to see. Like, you never know what could be of it. And it just like stuck with me. Even like before, this was like months before he passed. Um, and I just remember being like, damn, like it's so true. Like like you truly never know. Like I might as well try. And I had like that bit of support from him, and I was like, you know what? It was kind of at a time where I needed some pushing, right? And then when like I realized that he passed, it was obviously unfortunate, and I'm the type of person where like when something like that happens, like I tend to reflect on it months down the line, and I sat with it like, wow, like I'm not just doing this for myself, but I'm doing this for other people to show them what's possible with their own life, right? And so like with like starting a business, it's going to be lonely. Like you're not going to have people to talk to. And like at the point in my life where I'm at right now with the business, like I'm not like texting people. I'm not like communicating too much with friends these days. Like they have their own stuff going on, and like when we connect, it's great and whatnot. When we hang out in person, it's great. Um, but it's like I'm doing this for myself and to help people, and so like I have to lean on to figuring it out a lot of it on my own, right? And of course, I've had mentors along the way, people that have got given me a lot of valuable insight. A lot of the answers that I need to find were within, right? And a friend of mine said that a while back, which like I disagreed with at the time, and I still don't entirely agree with. But he said like you don't need a coach, you don't need like a program, like you need to find like the answers yourself. And it's at the time like I definitely needed help, and I still need assistance. That's why I still work with mentors. That's why I have people I'm connected with that are in the business space, in the fitness space, and whatnot. But one thing that stuck with me was like the finding it within part, right? Like you do need to figure out a lot of this stuff on your own, because like nobody's going to be able to tell you the answers that you want to hear, and nobody's going to be able to have your perspective on things. So how am I going to ask somebody what they think I should do with my business, with my vision, when they don't have the vision themselves, they don't have the same goals, and they don't really care, right? So like a lot of like internal work and reflection is what I've been cultivating, these past 9 months or so, since I've been fully submerged into the online business. And of course, like you guys that are watching, some of you might know, some of you do. I've been really since 2023 in this business, right? And even before that, I was posting on TikTok, right? Like I was um, posting content. I was doing workout programs for people, like making free meal plans, all that sort of stuff. Um, but it's been a couple of years since I've started this business. In like the past 9 months, it's been my full-time thing where I just decided to like full on send it, for lack of a better term. And I think like when you look back on your life, you should understand that there's not going to be this, like you don't want to have this feeling of like regret, of this feeling of like I wish I did more. And there's people I talk with all the time that say like, oh, when I was a younger kid, like XYZ, I wish I did this. I can remember I went out to Dallas and we were in this Uber driver, me and a buddy, and the Uber driver was talking about how he wanted to be a pilot and get his own plane and all this sort of stuff. And I just remember him saying like, yeah, but it didn't work out because I got kids and I got married and all that sort of stuff. And I just remember thinking to myself like, that sucks, but like that was your fault. Like you chose that, right? Like you chose to not continue pursuing your passion. And it made me think, because I was on a walk last night. It made me think like I had this like thought about like me being 50, 60 years old, sitting with my grandkids, and I don't like to think down these negative paths. I don't even like to think about this stuff. But truly, like the best way to change is to think about the worst case scenario and put yourself in that position, even just for a moment. So I put myself in that moment, which I haven't done, I don't think ever. And I thought like what it would be like for me to be sitting down with my grandkids, telling them like, yeah, I had this vision of starting this business, and um, stuff got hard, and I kind of just, you know, stopped, right? And I kind of just had to get on with life, and I had to just figure out, other priorities. And so because of that, like I didn't start the business. And I just thought about that, like what that would be like as a grandfather, um, telling that to a kid, like how depressing that must be to hear as a young kid that has these creative aspirations for himself. And I started to sit with that, like that would make me like absolutely like sick to my stomach. Um, and I think also from like a selfish bias, like not just would it make me feel guilty for, you know, what I was like putting out there for him, but like for myself, like I would look back and be miserable. And so I would rather be going through the monotonous, at times, misery, the pain, the discomfort, the sacrifices that I'm going through right now with starting this business, with being isolated, being lonely, not having a lot of things in common with people, not going out to bars and clubs and parties, not going out on vacations, on trips when like a lot of the people around me are doing that. Like people are traveling, they're going to different countries, they're going to Florida, they're doing all this fun stuff. And it's like I'm sitting in front of my desk day in and day out, verbally, like not actually, but like pretty much like banging my head against the wall, figuring out like try to how to try to make this not just work, but how to like be the best version of myself and build the best business that I can, right? Not versus somebody else, but versus myself. And as much as it's like frustrating at times where like wish I could just be hanging out, relaxing, and truly I could, but I decided not to go that route. I decided to leave my job. I decided to start this business from the scratch, from the ground up. I decided to invest a ton of money into mentors, a ton of money into figuring out how business works. Um, I wouldn't have it any other way because as tough as it is at times, I go to sleep every single night knowing, and sometimes I don't even like consciously think about this. It's just like thinking back on that, like I go to bed at night knowing that like I've done, just about everything in my power. And there's a mentor of mine. Um, if you're watching this, Ro, then it was you, but he's probably not watching this. Who knows? But he said something once when I first started working with him, and I wrote it down on a sticky note and I put it on my wall like 9 months ago when I first started. And it was like the question of he asked me like, "Are you doing everything in your power to succeed?" And I think about that all the time. And I never feel like I'm doing enough. I always feel like I could have done more. I'm always getting mad at myself for not being where I want to be. But I'm aiming for that, right? And I always think about that. Like maybe I'm not exactly where I want to be, but I'm doing everything in my power right now with what I have capable of and what I'm aware of, right? There are of course things I could be improving on and doing better, but with the knowledge I have, the skills I've acquired, the experience I have today, I'm doing everything in my power to put myself in the best position for tomorrow. And tomorrow, I'm doing everything in my power. And it's this repetitive thing where it's like when I go to sleep, it's like, okay, um, I can put my head in the pillow, knowing that I've done everything in my power to get this business off the ground, to become the best version of myself. And um, even if I didn't do everything perfect, I know that I pushed and pushed and pushed, right? And I think that there's a lot of videos on the internet that talk about how like you're just going to start this business and it's just going to take off and it's going to be amazing. And that can definitely happen. I've had periods of my life with personal growth, with business, especially recently, where things have been great, but it's also a lot of just uncertainty. That's the biggest thing because if I knew that, okay, by taking these set actions today and the next one's tomorrow and the day after, I would be in the position I want to be at, guaranteed. I wouldn't have all the stress. I wouldn't have all these feelings of uncertainty. But the thing about entrepreneurship is you truly don't know if it's ever going to pay off. And you don't know if what you're doing is going to pay off. Like for example, when you work a job, you know that okay, if I work 40 hours, I'm going to get paid X amount. If I get my bonus, I'm going to get paid X amount. If I, do XYZ, then I'll get a raise, right? If I do XYZ, then I'll get a vacation, right? But with business, it's like all this could be for nothing. All the things I'm doing right now might not pan out the way I want them to. But that's not the point. Like the point is not the destination. The point is the journey of where you're going and the development of yourself. Like I've literally devoted probably like 20,000 hours to education, probably more. I don't know. Reading books, listening to podcasts, learning from mentors, working one on one with people, getting feedback from clients, and also just like a lot of times, like I find myself like not sitting with what I like, not sitting quiet for long enough and figuring out like how I want to do things because it's always this revolving door of like go, 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 like have to do more. And as much as like I think that's good, I think it's good to take time to just sit in silence and peace. Like I think I'm not wired to be that way. Like it's kind of nice not having that peace as much as it's uncomfortable and it's stressful because I know that I'm pushing myself as close to the limit as possible for this current moment. And so for anybody out there that's watching that has some sort of vision for themselves, that has a goal, that has aspirations, like you just have to sit with the thought of, okay, like what is it that you truly want to do with your life? And what is it that is going to make you feel fulfilled? Because there's going to be these feelings of happiness, of joy, but there's also going to be these feelings of misery, of pain. and of discomfort. And like nobody has the answers for you. Nobody knows what it is that you should be doing besides you. And you can pray about these things, you can talk to God, you can ask close relatives, friends, family, but like truly, like you are going to have the answers to your own problems most of the time. And so I almost enjoy the fact that I don't have time to sit with like silence because I'm pushing myself to just like exceedingly high um, limits, right? I'm stretching my learning, I'm stretching like what I'm trying to accomplish. Um, and so it's good to take time and sit back. And I do that every once in a while, but um, I would rather push myself so hard and see how far I can take it than take time to sit back and relax and you know ponder on like what I've accomplished because like the whole journey is not what I've done, it's who I'm becoming in the process. And the fulfilling feeling is doing the work. When I'm working with like I have other people that I'm connected with that we talk um I have two guys that I talk with like every day pretty much and we just talk business. And I find myself like when I'm talking with them, when we're strategizing, when I'm working with clients, when I'm working with people hearing about where they're at with their health goals and their fitness journey and just their life in general. That's what's the fulfilling feeling. And I always find myself like when the call ends or when the work's over, feeling just like this sense of like boredom, this sense of unfulfillment. And the opposite is true. Like when I'm submerged in my work is when I feel truly alive. And I had like a client ask me like um earlier, I think it was, he was like, you know, do you feel like alive when you're doing work or do you like to kind of take some time away? And I'm like, no, like like that's truly like the time where I feel my greatest when I'm working on hard things and hard tasks. And it's definitely lonely for sure because like when I am talking with these people that I'm close with, in the business space, like it's always just business, and it's great, right? Because we're both pushing each other. But sometimes there's times where I'm just like, I wish we could just like sit down and just be like, yo, let's just talk about other stuff. And it's never like that, bro. It's always like, hey, bro, I gotta go. I have another call to take. But like, yeah, bro, I gotta go. I gotta be up early, for like my first client call. And I get it. I know how it is. But I feel like I noticed myself trying to fit in too much and trying to find people that have, the same goals so that when we connect, it's almost like, oh, like we talk about all this business stuff. Um, we connect a lot. Like, let's talk about other stuff. And it's like, you just have to realize that like people come in your life for a time and a place and for a reason, right? And there's like so many people where like I've connected with them, they're a great friend and we're working on business stuff, and then all of a sudden like they shut their business down and like now I don't hear from that person anymore. And it's like I get it because we were the only like that role that person had in my life at the time was just helping one another with each other's businesses, but it's just sometimes lonely when you sit back and you think like wow, like um you know that person was, a pretty big impact, had a pretty big piece of like my journey at the time. And on the flip side, like the people, the friends of mine that um I do get to share experiences with, it's like, I don't relate with them on the same level, so we're not talking near as much as the people that I work with, right? And I don't really know where I kind of want to leave off this video, but just knowing that like you ultimately have to do what's in your best interest and what makes you feel fulfilled, and it's so much better to be feeling lonely and feeling like you don't have a lot of hobbies and you have a big vision. It's so much better to be doing that, but to be working toward your true life's mission and purpose than it is to surround yourself with people just to distract yourself. So many people like distract themselves with like going out, listening to music, constantly just like distracting themselves from silence. I know it sounds counterintuitive based on what I just kind of said earlier. Um, but you truly just have to do what's in your best interest in your own life. If you want to look back on your life one day and know that like you gave everything that you had, because there's been people in my life that passed away, like people in my life, um, that I've just seen how their life panned out, and people do what they want, nothing against it. I'm not judging, but I just didn't want a life that they had, and I didn't want to just settle for having mediocrity and just like feelings of like, oh, I wish I did XYZ. Um, so understand that like at the end of the day, bro, like you're the person that has to make the decisions, and you're also the person that has to live with them. So if you're the person that has to live with these decisions, wouldn't you rather make decisions that are going to put you in the best position to fulfill everything that you want to fulfill, to live the life that you desire? Just sit with those thoughts. Sit with the thought of maybe it's lonely. Maybe whatever you're going through right now is feeling difficult, but you're by yourself most of the time. You're spending more time with yourself than you are with other people. And if that's the case, which it is, wouldn't you want to do things that you enjoy doing? Wouldn't you rather be by yourself and feeling lonely, feeling isolated at times, feeling like you don't have a lot in common with those in your immediate circle? Um, but you're actually feeling fulfilled inside with what you are doing. Wouldn't you rather have that than try to fit in, but then every time you're around these people, feel like you're leaving something on the table? Because that's how I felt for the longest time before I fully committed to the business. I was just like trying to make friends and successfully, like I was hanging out with people, I was making friends, but I just remember like being like at the bar or being at like a friend's house and like, yo, like let's do something tonight. And it's like I remember just being in these environments and being like, bro, like I just want to go home and like start this fitness business. Like I just want to like fulfill my passions and my purpose. Like I feel like unfulfilled, and you just have to choose like what side of the coin you want to sit on. Like for me, like the feelings of loneliness, isolation, as boring as they feel at times, as lonely as I might feel, like you know, I would rather have that, but know that like I'm actually working on these things. I'm actually living the life that I want to live, versus like just living a life of mediocrity and just living a life where low key, like deep down inside, like I feel miserable because I know I'm capable of so much more, and I know that like this isn't what I want to do with my life. So I hope that helps some of you guys out there. And I hope whoever's watching just knows that like that's how business is, that's how life is. But if you want to live the life that you desire, then you just have to make sacrifices, and you have to be okay with being alone, with being by yourself, with sitting with your own thoughts, with having your own vision. And if you do that, you're going to look back one day on your life and realize that you actually had the life that you wanted. And you will start to have people be attracted into your life that also have similar visions. So do what it is that you want to do with your life. Not to say that in like a screw other people. I'm saying like do what it is that you want to do with your life, and don't, don't wait on starting your goals, your vision, whether it's a business, whether it's a career opportunity, whether it's your passion, like your purpose, whatever. Don't put it off. Just start, because like for so many years I put things off because I didn't think it was possible, and also I procrastinated a lot. But when I finally started, like that's when I felt more fulfillment than ever. So don't let your current emotions, your current state of being, dictate your future. Meaning, if you feel like it's hard now, don't let that make this, don't allow that to have an impact on like the way you make decisions, because the feelings you're going to have in the future of not living out the goals you set out for yourself are going to exceed, you know, the tough times you might be facing right now. So hopefully that helps some of you guys out there. I'll see you guys in the next video. If you want to check out my Instagram, it's jstroudfit. same as YouTube. And yeah, obviously, if you guys want to join my coaching program, you can click the link in my bio and um, jump on a call or whatever. Like you really don't have to, but I just want to say like I'm blessed for all the clients that I have and everybody that watches these videos and the people I'm able to work with. It's such a blessing because like younger me, lacking confidence, all these sorts of things, um, would have been proud of the person I am right now for doing the things I'm doing. So do the things you want to do with your life because it will pay off. And if it doesn't, two things. If it doesn't, then one, you just didn't want it bad enough and you didn't make it happen. But two, at least you can look back on the life you lived and know that you fulfilled your life and you did the things that you wanted to do with your life. And you put in the work to go after the aspirations you have. Just keep your head up, just keep going. And whatever happens, just don't give up on yourself. Because you have to sit with your own life at the end of the day and you have to be by yourself more than you spend other time. You'll spend more time with yourself than you will with other people. And so because of that, you might as well enjoy it, bro. I'll see you guys in the next video.